Hello, we are still trying to find the equation for a straight line in coordinate geometry. In this case, they give you one coordinate and a line which is parallel to another one. Okay, so if we look at the example, they say determine the equation of a straight line which is parallel to y equals 2x minus 5 and passing through the point negative 1, 5. Now, if you look at this, people, the 2 represents the gradient and this one represents a coordinate. So once again, people, they give you the gradient and one coordinate. Okay, so if they give you the gradient and one coordinate, as I taught you in previous videos, you will start with the equation which is called the gradient intercept equation for a straight line graph. Okay, what you must know from graphs, if we are talking about parallel lines, then their gradients are equal. So this is one line, or this is the gradient of one line that is equal to the gradient of another line, and in this case it is both 2 coming from the 2x. Okay, so parallel lines have the same gradient. So what do you do in step 1? In step 1, you substitute your gradient with the given information, okay, which is 2 in this case. Then in step 2, we said we are going to substitute the coordinate, which comes from there. So in place of x, you will write negative 1. In the place of y, you will write 5, okay, using that equation, and then c remains the variable. If you now do Goros or you take over the negative 2 to that side, then you will find that c equals 7. Okay, and then in the last step again, you start with your basic formula, mx plus c. You have got the gradient, so in the place of m, you write the 2, and you have calculated the c, so in the place of the c, you write 7, and you end up with your equation for that straight line. Okay, so very importantly, people, remember that if lines are parallel, they have the same gradient. Great. If we go on, they can give you a similar question where they give you one coordinate and they ask you to find the equation for a line perpendicular to another one. Now remember, perpendicular to another one means they are meeting at 90-degree angles. And what you should remember is that in perpendicular lines, if we multiply the gradients, it will always give me a negative 1. So look at the question. Find the equation of a line which is perpendicular to the line y plus 2x equals 9. Okay, and then it passes through the point 9 and 11. Now, if you look at the formula that is given, it is not in the gradient intercept form. So step 1, if it is not in the gradient intercept form, rewrite it. Make y the subject of the formula, meaning you must take over the 2x. Then this becomes y equals negative 2x plus 9. So this is y equals mx plus c. Okay, now because they are perpendicular, you must now from this gradient find what we call the reciprocal fraction with the opposite sign. Because if I multiply negative 2 by its reciprocal and the opposite sign, then I will always get negative 1. Okay, so I have done it here. If you have m1 times m2 gradient 1 times gradient 2, that should give you negative 1. Okay, in this case, we've got a gradient of negative 2, so you substitute the negative 2, which you must multiply by the gradient 2. That must give you negative 1. So m2 is the variable, which means we must take over the negative 2, but it's multiplied on this side, so it becomes divide by negative 2 on that side. And if you calculate negative 1 divided by negative 2, then it gives you 1/2. So now you have found the gradient for this formula, meaning you will once again start with y equals mx plus c. You have now calculated m as 1/2, so you will substitute that. So you have y equals 1/2 x plus c. That's really what is always step 1, is substitute the gradient. All right, then in the next step, you are going to substitute into the x and the y, the gradient in the coordinate that is given. So here the x coordinate is 9. Substitute that into this place. Then the y coordinate is 11. So substitute that in the place of y. And then once again, people, goros o, we can calculate and c equals 6.5. Right. And then lastly, remember y equals mx plus c. We have calculated the gradient as being 1/2. So substitute the gradient with 1/2. You have calculated the c value as 6.5, the c value as 6.5. Substitute that, and then you've got the equation. So all of these methods, people, are based on the 3 steps, okay? You start with your gradient intercept format, which is y equals mx plus c. Always, always, always start with that format. Then you must get the gradient, okay, and substitute that. In the next step, you're going to substitute the coordinate that is given to calculate c. And then lastly, you basically just need to write out your equation. So you substitute the gradient and you substitute the c, and then you have your equation.